Dragons, wizards, princes, seers, prophets, and more. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I'm Andrew. Today I got another book review for you, but before we get to that book review, make sure you're liking and subscribing, hitting that bell notification so you can get regular updates for when I put out new content. I post every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Also, make sure you're checking that description box down below for the links to the Wizardly Duo Discord, as well as links to all of my social media and information about my Patreon. So today guys, I've actually got a pretty exciting book review for you because this is like a review copy. That's going to be the Seventh Cadence by Jim Wilbourne. I was kind of sent this by the publisher Emergent Realms, which is kind of like the small boutique publisher. And like, you know, my buddy Dominish had read the book, and then he kind of popped into the Wizardly Duo Discord. It was like, hey, they're looking for other people to read and review the book. All you really got to do is message them through various like means of social media. So what I did is I hopped on Twitter and I just DM'd the Emergent Realms account, and they were like, yeah, sure, your physical copy's on the way. Like that, like it was nothing. Then, out of nowhere, the author jumps into the Wizardly Duo Discord, so I got to talk to him while I read this. Guys, this is a very, very interesting, very small press, boutique published. This is borderline self-pub, like borderline. It is very, very interesting read, and it's got some really great ideas, but the core premise here I thought was really great. This is the Seventh Cadence. It is the Continua Chronicles Book 1. I asked Jim, he said this is Book 1 of 5, of a planned 5. Now guys, what is this book about? First of all, forget what the book's about. Look at that cover. Look at that cover. See that dragon? Oh, it's gorgeous. It's got a great spine. It's got a great back. And if you look at the edges, you can kind of see these black lines. It's because between the sections are called movements. You get like a little map, and then you get this little movement section. There are 5 movements, so this is structured into a book of 5 parts, and it's very, very interesting. Essentially, like, this is basically where there are 2 factions, and one faction believes in the deity, the other one does not. And so the one that does not pushes out this dominion that believes in a titular deity and kind of pushes them from their lands. And then, the story picks up 15 years later after this big bloody war. And then they've had 15 years of peace. And then now, they're returning with the returning threat is kind of the through line here, where they're trying to come back, reclaim these lands, and bring the lost souls back into the fold. And what's really interesting about that is that titular deity is just a wizard. And so it's a really interesting take on a wizard where basically in this world, the wizard is all powered. He is called the Wizard Titan, where he is revered as a god. And so all these people are worshiping this wizard who has disappeared from the world. Like he left 200 years ago and he was just like, deuces, I'm out. And so we're kind of we spend some of the book trying to figure out the mystery of where did the Wizard Titan go? Why is magic illegal in certain places? And it's really, really interesting because they've got these little booklets where they've trapped spells. So you can still use magic if you know how to read the spell book, but you can't do magic yourself. And these spell books are like one-trick pony pamphlets. It's really, really interesting. It's a great kind of it's unique. I've never run into anything like that before, because usually when it's wizards, it's always like the wizard school or the lost wizard order. No, this is singular wizard, one wizard, the Wizard Titan. And I think that's really cool. I thought it was really interesting. Whenever that was brought up, I always wanted to know more. Our main characters here, in the beginning we have King Jeremiah, in the prologue in part 1. And then we've also got Prince Gabriel and his brother Seth. Seth is more of a background character, but I think he will play a bigger role in the later books. So we focus mainly here on Prince Gabriel. And then we've got Tella and Navid. And I believe Gavid. Yes, Gavid, the Keeper Gavid. So kind of broken up into little sections here. We've got the royalties. We've got King Jeremiah, and we've got his son, his firstborn son, Prince Gabriel. And then we've got Tella, who is what is called a keeper. And what the keepers do is basically they go out into the world and they seek knowledge and they write it down. They're basically like librarians, basically trying to keep knowledge together so that when the return of Titan happens, they can disseminate this knowledge to him. Then we've got Navid, who is a seer. Basically, we've got seers and we've got prophets in this story. And the way it's explained is a prophet kind of sees the big picture when it comes to like prophesying and everything. Like basically, I think at one point it's mentioned that like the prophets see the forest and everything that happens into it. What a seer can do is a seer can see kind of what's going on with like one ant within that forest. Like they're hyper focused in, and this actually makes them deadly warriors because the seers can kind of like, you know, as they're moving through a moment, they can almost see what's going to happen if they choose an action and can kind of manipulate fate as they move through it instead of like, you know, pulling on the spider web to manipulate events to get a certain result. Instead, they're kind of running along the web. It's very, very interesting the way that the way that seers and prophets interact within this story. I really, really enjoyed it. Probably my favorite sections in this book were when we are following Tella and Navid. Mainly because they start out very antagonistic towards each other. Because Tella is a keeper, she is on the run for her life. Basically, people do not want the Wizard Titan to come back. So they've been hunting down and killing all the keepers. So that, you know, they have no knowledge to disseminate. And so she's fleeing for her life, but like a keeper is needed. And so the prophets send a seer to go at least save one keeper. And so Navid is sent in to where she is at and retrieves her via this really cool portal spell. And from then on, they become traveling companions. And they kind of go from enemies to friends. It's not an enemies to lovers trope, which I actually appreciated. And if it ends up going that way in later books, like I can kind of see it going that way. But this is just more of an enemies to friends thing, which I actually really appreciated. There isn't a whole lot of romance in here, if at all. And that's honestly something that's kind of refreshing, because the story just wants to tell a good epic fantasy story. There's some really great ideas in this book, and the journey that these characters go on is fantastic. Now, we've kind of talked about Tella and Navid and their trials and tribulations of like how they go from enemies to friends. I'm not going to go spoilers, this is a non-spoiler review. Let's talk about the royalty a little bit. We've got King Jeremiah, which he is the king of the, I can't pronounce it. It's like H-Z-O-R-A-H. Hazora, I think is how it's pronounced. He is the Hazora king, and I think he's the third generation king, or the first generation king. Anyway, he comes from a line of warrior kings. But basically, at the very end, when they push the Dominion, which is this kind of religious sect that worships the Wizard Titan, out of his kingdom, he exiles magic. Or he forbids magic, not exiles it. He forbids the use of magic within his kingdom. They don't really have any truck with that. And what's cool about it is we see him go from like this warrior king to loving husband to doting father to politician, where he kind of hangs his saber on the wall and he's like, nah, I'm done. And so then like he goes about being a politician and working with the other kingdoms and queendoms. But at the same time, we see him very much like, usually when you see the king, it's always the king kind of sitting there brooding. We get to see Jeremiah very often as just a man. And I really, really enjoyed that. On the flip side, Gabriel is very much the spoiled prince. He doesn't understand his father putting up the saber. He's like, no, we come from a line of warrior kings, and I'm going to return to being a warrior king, and my father has it wrong, and he should lead from the front and on the battlefield. And it's funny because basically, due to some circumstances that happening, Gabriel runs away to join the military. And this is something that's very interesting because I didn't like Gabriel until he makes this decision to join the military, and we start seeing him kind of realize that, he starts pulling from his father's lessons while he's going through these trials and tribulations and all of the events that lead to him doing this. And we start to see him kind of put aside his royal, mannerisms and just become a regular person. And he kind of settles in and starts growing up a little bit. And I think he's going to have some more growing up to do as the series goes on, because there's just so much to explore here within the Seventh Cadence. Now, the name Cadence comes from, I've heard the joke, what happened to cadences 1 through 6? What the cadences are is it's kind of a battle form. And basically, the way that the combat works here is it almost takes like a Wheel of Time approach to combat. Like, the forms and, like sheathing the sword and things of that nature, like swooping falcon and crushing mountain and, moving in through the form as well. Here they kind of move through cadences, which is kind of like a flow of combat. And so the 7th cadence is like a dodge, I think, if I'm remembering that correctly. It's like a dodge form. And it's so interesting because when we start getting, once it's finally explained, you're like, oh, I kind of get that. Hey everyone, Future Andrew here. Guys, I've got some exciting news for you. I'd already filmed my review for the 7th Cadence by Jim Wilbourne, and then the author reached out to me. He's like, hey, I'm really glad you enjoyed this book. What do you think about hosting a giveaway for a signed copy? That's right, a signed copy of this book right here, which I don't have. My copy is a review copy, so I am jealous. And so that's what we're doing, guys. We are going to be giving away a signed copy of this gorgeous book. Look at it. You know you want it. Guys, in order to enter this giveaway, which is going to be US only, I do need to preface that this is a US-based giveaway. Go ahead and drop in the comment section down below and leave me an emoji of a book. I will then run that through the magic of the internet, and it will randomly select a winner, and I will announce that winner within the next week. It would help if you are a part of the Wizardly Duo Discord, because then I can just message you and be like, hey, you won! By the way, link in the description box down below if you want. Also, guys, we've got more exciting news revolving around this book. In the first week of January, the ebook for the 7th Cadence is only going to be 99 cents. So go ahead and jump onto the Kindle store and snag a copy if you want. Also, we have a discount code for the Emergent Realms website. That's right, Emergent Realms. These guys have merch. They've got signed copies. They've got other books to look into. That code is going to be Wizardly. It is going to be in the description box down below. So make sure. I also have the link to the website. So you can just jump on in, click the website, pop that discount code in, and get 10% off. That said, guys, that's the exciting news that I have for you. So back to the review. That's it, guys. This is a very, very good book. I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's probably one of my top 10 of the quarter. I don't know if it'll make top 10 of the year. This is definitely a very, very enjoyable epic fantasy read. It did have a couple drawbacks. There was a couple characters in here where, like, maybe they will become more relevant in the next book. But, like, every time they showed up on the page, it's a couple of sisters. Every time they show up on the page after their first appearance, I'm just like, why are you here? And so I would kind of reached out to Jim while I was reading it, and I kind of got raffoed. And so I think that's going to be something that is addressed in the later books. So there is a little bit of setup taking place in the first book for the rest of the series. That's going to kind of be a through line. At least that is what I'm hoping. If I had to give a star rating or a numbered rating, let's go 4.25 out of 5. I really, really enjoyed it. I had some mild complaints. Other than that, guys, I will link in the description box down below where you can pick up copies of this. I'll have the website to Emergent Realms right there. Go ahead and click that link. You can get a signed copy. That said, guys, that's all I got for you. So, till next time, peace out. Stay magical. Bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.